All right, Q&A 86. If you like the Q&As, remember to like this slide because it shows it to more people when more people like the first slide on a story, just so you know. If you're seeing this on YouTube, like the video if you like the video. Today is going to be more of like a feeling things out session for me, sort of. I mean, I'm never going to go to the gym and not work hard, but there's going to be a variety of exercises that I have to modify or perhaps change out completely because I literally cannot brace with my right arm at all. I can hold a cell phone, see? I mean, this is my good hand, but that's about the extent of what I can do with my right arm. So we'll see how this goes. Still planning to do full body, mostly the same exercises that I was doing before I started using my right arm again. Anyways, look forward to the questions. Until later.
How does Izzy's mom feel about Microsoft stock trading at an all-time high? I have no idea, man. I don't even know what kind of exposure my mom has to Microsoft in her portfolio these days. I'll tag her and we'll find out in the next Q&A or something. There was a time in the not too distant past that this would have meant very, very big things for her financially because she worked at Microsoft for like 30 years. But I literally, like I said, have no idea what amount of Microsoft stock she holds these days. Should personal trainers and online coaches have subsidized healthcare benefits like real healthcare workers? No. I mean, I'm not a policy writer, man, and I don't care, really. But no. The reason why real healthcare workers have access to better healthcare is because nobody wants those jobs. And they have to incentivize people one way or another to actually take those jobs. That's the main reason that they get extra coverage. Okay, whatever other reasons are provided are window dressing to make everybody feel nice and warm inside. There's no shortage of PTs and online trainers. Everybody wants to be a damn online trainer. No. How to approach a chronic injury where layoffs do not help and lifting makes the injury worse. You need to develop a relationship with a competent physical therapist that can actually help you. Unfortunately, the vast majority of physical therapists are used to working with like sedentary elderly people, and they give you 3-pound dumbbells and little band exercises that don't really do anything. You need to develop a relationship with a PT that actually works with lifters and start fixing the problems. Some problems won't just go away with rest. How are you feeling? I hope you recover fast. Thank you. Physically, I'm much better than expected, actually. Like, I can lift my arm over my head. I've lost pretty much zero mobility in my shoulder. I can hold things in my right hand. I've accidentally picked up things that weighed like 5 pounds or so. I'm in very little pain. The very first day when the nerve block wore off, I was probably in like a 6 out of 10 pain before bed, which is kind of bad. But with some ibuprofen and Tylenol, that went away and I was able to sleep just fine. It hurts less every single day. And I'm obviously back in the gym training, and pain is not a factor at all. So the thing that's been really disruptive, though, is that I can't do things my normal way with my right hand. I'm just such a creature of habit that not being able to use my right arm in the normal way is very disruptive, both to my routine, how long it takes me to do things. Like, it's taking me like 3 times as long to cook meals, 2 times as long to eat them, and I have to use a spoon instead of a fork. And these all sound like really small things, and they are. But this stuff actually bothers me more, and like emotionally and psychologically, than the fact that there's like a cast on my arm and I had like pain and I went through a surgery. The fact that I can't stick to my routine, that really throws me off. And I know I'm going to get asked like how I'm doing 1,000,000 times over the next couple weeks, and I'm probably going to ignore it from now on. It's not because I don't appreciate everyone checking in on me. I very much appreciate it. It's just that I don't like to show vulnerability. I know people say that you should, but I don't like to. I like to show strength. People's role in this world, like musicians and artists, is to show vulnerability and to help other people realize it's okay to feel certain kinds of emotions. And I totally respect that, and it's totally necessary. We need people that do that. But we also need people who are fucking rocks, so that when everything is around you is wobbly and going crazy, there's other things that you can look at that never change. They're always reliable, always strong, and that's my role. So overall, I'm fine, and I'll continue to be fine. The one thing that today's training session definitely showed me as far as having to adapt is that I'm definitely going to have to change most, if not all, of my leg movements one way or another, or I'm going to have to invest in some sort of a do-it-yourself seatbelt, because I am literally unable to brace on most leg movements, and it does not work to only brace with one arm on one side. It doesn't anchor you down in the seat. So anything where I needed to use both hands to brace, like a leg extension or leg press calves, it didn't go well, and I did much worse than usual. So that's the thing that I'm going to have to figure out how to adapt. Upper body, good. Do you think barbell medicine's liberal stance on form and fear-mongering has gone too far? So I don't consume barbell medicine content, and I don't know what, with any degree of nuance, what Jordan and Austin's positions are these days on technique. That said, no, I think in absolute novices, technique is the most important consideration, because they have no idea what they're doing. And if you don't teach them proper exercise mechanics, you can get some real funky Bambi-like movement quality going on. And then the next time that technique becomes super important is for advanced lifters that need to maximize SFR. However, what I've noticed lately is an epidemic of intermediate lifters that are literally more proud of quote-unquote perfect technique, whatever the fuck that means, than they are of how strong they are. And it's people that do 5-second eccentrics with 3-second pauses on their Smith squats with a plate and a quarter. You will never, ever get big legs that way. Ever. Ever. It's true that somebody that brute forces their way to a 500-pound for 10 rep squat might not have the best quads because of SFR. Maybe they get a lot of adductor and a lot of glute out of that, but they're going to have a lower body that looks like they lift. The 185 for 10 with ultra slow eccentrics guy, maybe not. And I need to make sure that no one misunderstands me. It is important to have good technique. It's important to have your technique be as good as it can be. But the second that you make that mentality shift to, I want to use the lightest weights possible, and it doesn't matter how strong I am in absolute terms, that is the second that you will never, ever become truly big. Ever. And I know there's a certain camp, which will go unnamed, that preaches the exact opposite of that. Well, I just flat out disagree. I think they're wrong. If you want to get big, you have to lift big loads at some point. That's not to say that at some point, like if you've gotten up to a 6-plate deadlift or a 7-plate deadlift if you're enhanced, really, that you shouldn't at some point switch over to strict RDLs with the pause or stiff leg deadlifts or use some other technique alterations that improve SFR. You should. You absolutely should. But if you're not moving big weights on those movements, given the technique adjustments that you've made, it's never going to happen for you, man. You have to get strong to get big. And honestly, if we're talking purely injury risk, the worst thing that you can do is to actually get big and strong. I hate saying that, but it's just the truth. Novices using like a slightly rounded back to deadlift 275 for a 1-rep max at the gym to have fun, they're just probably not going to get hurt doing that. A guy who's deadlifting 675 with perfect form can still have something go wrong and have some sort of a failure in the system where there's just tissue that just wasn't up to the task because the limits are being pushed. I never had repeated muscle strains or tendon tears as a natural. Tendinitis from overtraining? Absolutely. Repeated muscle strains only started happening to me when I started benching 3.5 and 4 plates on a regular basis. So if you don't want to get hurt, don't get big and strong. It's part of the game. Will Donald Trump go to jail? Should he? I honestly don't even know what Donald Trump stands accused of. I don't watch politics on the news. So this is a very unpopular opinion of mine, but it's what I truly believe. I don't believe in political efficacy. I don't think that the average person's votes matter. I don't think you have any real say over the political process. It's all controlled by elites and large sums of money. And I don't even vote. I think politics are a complete waste of time. I don't pay attention. Again, if you want to make a difference in the world, the best way that you can do that is to make a lot of money, because with money, you can then have influence. You can contribute to charities that you think make a difference. You can put the money directly towards a cause that you believe in. But spending hours per week consuming news media that does absolutely nothing to make you happier, wealthier, healthier, is to me a fundamental misallocation of your personal resources. Knock it off. What's the highest body fat you'd recommend that a natural gets to before cutting? I made a 15-minute video about this already, and I've answered this question no less than half a dozen times. But I'll do it again one more time. If you are a natural that does not compete, it does not matter. There is no convincing evidence in the data, in the literature, that P ratio is negatively affected by higher body fats in naturals. That means that as you get fatter, it does not increase the ratio of fat to muscle gained. So you can get as fat as you want as long as you don't induce diabetes. Okay, as soon as you look in the mirror and go, I'm probably a little bit too fat, you can start dieting. Realistically, for males, probably somewhere in the 16 to 20% range. How do I deal with an addiction so strong that I no longer find food pleasurable? Dude, you need professional help, okay? Like, I'm just a fitness influencer. Yes, I have life experiences where I've dealt with subclinical addictions. I had a drinking problem in my early 20s for sure, with social drinking that got out of control. I even got a DUI at one point. And I had to completely cut that out of my life. And the main way that I did it was because I had so much pain associated to that behavior that I was essentially forced to change, because my life could not continue on the same track that it was going on, as I was ruining my progress towards my goals and ruining my future. But if you have a physical addiction that's causing you to not like food anymore, like, this goes way beyond something that you can just grit and bear and white knuckle it on your own. Go seek professional help and get resources to deal with true addiction. Can you recommend any good sales books? Honestly, I would check out some of the books by Grant Cardone. He does have a specific sales system that I think he gets into a little bit in some of his books, but I think that's actually and more so elaborated on in his larger, more expensive products, which I've gone through in the past. But his books are great for general mentality and getting introduced to the sales world. And then depending on exactly what sales industry that you're going into, I would look at resources that are aimed directly at that industry, because the technique is going to be very different if you're selling art versus, trying to sell a software subscription or something. So it really does depend, but Grant Cardone is an excellent place to start for general sales mentality. Any wild anesthesia dreams? Honestly, I have about 15 to 20 seconds of memory from when they wheeled me into the surgery room, and then I was out from whatever drug that they used to put me out. And then I woke up and it was done. And I pretty much left within 30 minutes after that. So I didn't have a single dream, and I have no memories of the surgery whatsoever. Seated calf raises never make me sore, but straight leg calf work destroys me. Is that normal? Honestly, dude, personally, I never get sore from anything. I think the last time that I was like legitimately sore from a movement that I had been already doing, it was like when I worked out with Trevor and Dr. Mike, and we did like 7 sets of squats to failure. And I got to the point where I failed a Smith squat with 1 plate per side. That's the last time that my quads were super sore after a workout. So soreness, I mean, it's person to person, but yes, you're probably going to get a better stretch on your calves with straight leg movements versus seated calf raises. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do seated calf raises, as the reality of the situation is they are going to do a better job of focusing on the soleus, and straight leg work will also do the soleus, but more and more gastroc. Volume be increased if we are not progressing. If you're stagnating in roughly the same spot, having the same performances over and over again, yes, this is a sign that you're at maintenance volume and you should increase the volume to get more progress. However, if you're actively regressing, you actually need more recovery, not more volume, because you're not even getting back to baseline after each session. What is your favorite era of bodybuilding? What aspects do you like of it? 2000s bodybuilding, no doubt. Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler. I mean, again, Ronnie Coleman. I don't need any other reason. Ronnie Coleman is the reason that I got into hardcore lifting. He's still my favorite person to watch lift to this day, Ronnie Coleman. Can you share your experience with tempo training, especially regarding non-explosive concentric training? It's a complete and utter waste of time. When I hear tempo training, I immediately think extreme tempos, so like super slow stuff. 5-second and longer eccentrics, purposely slow concentrics. There is plenty of evidence that none of this provides additional hypertrophy benefits. In fact, there's pretty good evidence to suggest that if you're not being explosive on the concentric, unless you're doing it to avoid injury, you are not going to recruit all of the highest threshold motor units, so you'll get less hypertrophy. Likewise, if you're not at least controlling your eccentric somewhat with like a 2 to 3 second eccentric, depending on the total, the true amplitude of the movement, you're not going to maximally hypertrophy type 1 fibers. So use a reasonable tempo. I feel like I'm oversaturated with so much info about mechanics and strength curves and so many different exercises that I'm progressing really slowly because I'm using a program that's more advanced than it needs to be. Dude, you've perfectly assessed the situation. That is the correct assessment of the vast majority of you. And that's why sometimes I have conflicts about doing these Q&As, knowing that the people asking me strength curve questions are people that can't squat 315. They can't squat 3 plates for hypertrophy reps. Do you know how long it took me to squat 3 plates for hypertrophy reps? Less than 6 months of training. Now, people are going to be like, genetics. But you know what else I was doing? I was in a surplus, gaining up over a pound a week, doing a linear progression program, adding 5 pounds every workout, and fighting for my freaking life to get each and every one of those 5-pound PRs, which is what most beginners and early intermediates should be doing, not advanced stuff. Alrighty, folks, that's the end of the Q&A today. You're going to have to accept this picture of Kona and Mello instead of my ugly mug, as I am at an all-time high for disgustingness right now. I'm not allowed to get this stupid cast wet, so I have to shower by hand. Life is not that fun at the moment. Anyways, if you enjoy the Q&As, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. There's a link right here on this slide on Instagram or in the description box on YouTube. If you'd like to work with me directly for half-price coaching, you can just DM me on Instagram or look for my email in the description box on YouTube, which is also where you'll find my ebooks. Link in the description box or the link in my bio for Instagrammers. If you're seeing this on YouTube, if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy the rest of your weekends, my friends. I will be back in 2 days to do this all again, because obviously we can't really just miss training sessions due to a torn bicep, right? Seems normal.